Hey trainers! It's King Haxorus here. Today, we're diving into the enchanting origins of the fairy type, one of the most magical additions to Pokémon. Introduced in Generation V, the fairy type brought balance to the game by countering the overpowered dragon type. But why fairy? Its origins are rooted in folklore, representing creatures like fairies, spirits, and mythical beings known for their charm, grace, and mysterious power. Fairy types often symbolize purity and nature but can also have a mischievous side, like Clefable and Sylveon. Their immunity to dragon attacks reflects the idea that magical beings can defy brute strength with elegance and cunning. Fairy types also emphasize relationships and bonds, aligning with Pokémon themes of friendship and connection. Which fairy Pokémon is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more Pokémon lore. This is King Haxorus. Stay magical, trainers. Xerneas and Yveltal, life and destruction. Alright, trainers, let's have ourselves a proper look at one of the grandest legends in Pokémon history. In the ancient forests of Kalos, two mighty beings shaped the fate of the world, Xerneas, the bringer of life, and Yveltal, the harbinger of destruction. When Xerneas awakens, it shares its infinite life energy, revitalizing the land and blessing Pokémon and people alike. But when Yveltal stirs, it absorbs the life force of everything around it, turning forests to dust before cocooning itself in slumber? A bit grim, yeah? But that's balance for you. One gives, one takes, and Kalos remains standing. Best not wake him up, though. Wouldn't want a surprise extinction event. Hello, I'm KH, and today I have a Pokémon theory. What is Mega Evolution, and why does it matter? Mega Evolution is a powerful form, and it's important because of its immense strength, especially for Mewtwo. While not all Mega Evolutions are great, we care about lore, not meta. Mega Evolution originated thousands of years ago when Kingus created it to end the war, though it cost many Pokémon lives. But why does Gen 1 get most of the Mega Evolutions? Simple, Gen 1 is everywhere in the Pokémon world, and if my Gen 1 is the core universe theory holds, then Gen 5 is the only exception, existing in its own timeline. Legendaries like Rayquaza also have unique forms, hinting at deeper lore. But why is Mega Evolution tied to strong trainer bonds? That's a theory for another day. Farewell, my friends. Intro music plays. King Haxorus looks visibly uncomfortable. King Haxorus, KH, alright. I guess we're doing this. Today, we're talking about the fairy type. Max, oh wow, KH. You look like you just saw a Togekiss sweep your entire team. Professor Porygon, PP. It's understandable. Fairy types completely wreck dragon types, so this is probably his worst nightmare. KH, look, I don't hate fairy types. But they were a mistake. A mistake. Anyway, we're here to talk about their real-life inspirations, mythology, and impact on the Pokémon world. Let's get it over with. Let's start with the real reason fairy types even exist. Back in Gen 5, dragon types were basically overpowered. Pokémon like Garchomp, Salamence, and Hydreigon ran the competitive scene, and there wasn't much stopping them. Game Freak needed a way to balance the game. So when Gen 6 rolled around, they introduced fairy types to counteract the dominance of dragons. KH, translation. They nerfed my favorite type because people couldn't handle the heat. I mean. Yeah, kinda. But fairy types aren't just a gameplay fix. They have deep roots in mythology and folklore, which is why they fit so well into Pokémon. In real-world mythology, fairies weren't always the cute, friendly creatures we see in modern media. Many were actually dangerous, mischievous, and sometimes terrifying. Oh, so we're talking about evil fairies? Okay, I can work with this. Exactly. Take the Seelie and Unseelie courts from Scottish folklore. The Seelie fairies were mischievous but mostly harmless, while the Unseelie fairies were straight-up malevolent, kidnapping people, playing cruel tricks, and even leading travelers to their doom. Then there's the changeling myth, a belief that fairies would steal human children and replace them with their own kind. Not exactly the happy, sparkling creatures people think of today, right? So you're telling me fairy types should have been dark types? Makes sense. Not entirely. The fairy type in Pokémon is inspired by both the whimsical and dangerous aspects of fairy folklore. Some are cute, like Clefairy and Sylveon, while others, like Grimmsnarl, lean into the darker side of fairy mythology. Okay, I'll admit, Grimmsnarl is kinda cool. But I still don't trust the rest of them. Now we get to the real question, why the heck do fairy types destroy dragon types? It makes no sense. Actually, it does. In many myths, dragons were seen as huge, powerful beasts, unstoppable forces of destruction. But who usually defeated them? That's right, fairies, gods, and magical beings. Think of characters like Merlin in Arthurian legends or the fey folk who could outwit powerful monsters. Even in modern fantasy, dragons are often vulnerable to magic. And fairy types represent that same mystical power, something beyond brute strength. So you're saying dragons lose to fairy types because of some law-based nerf? I call foul. It's more than that. Fairy types are also associated with purity, light, and divine power, concepts that often counterbalance chaos and destruction in mythology. Great. So my dragons aren't just weak to fairy moves, they're weak to symbolism. Pretty much. And let's be real, fairy types needed to be strong to make up for how late they were introduced. Now, let's talk about real-world creatures that influenced fairy Pokémon. Many fairy types are based on mythological beings, but some also have real animal counterparts. For example, Clefairy and Togekiss resemble the moon rabbit, a mythical creature in Asian folklore tied to the moon and magic. Then we have Pokémon like Mimikyu, which takes inspiration from the idea of a spirit or yokai hiding behind a disguise. And what about Grimmsnarl? Because I actually like that one. That one's based on ogres and goblins from European folklore, creatures known for their shape-shifting and trickery. So fairy types range from adorable space rabbits to nightmare goblins? No wonder I don't trust them. Alright, let's talk about the real problem. Fairy types in battle. Because let's be honest, they're way too strong. They're strong, but they're not unbeatable. The introduction of fairy types forced players to adapt, making steel and poison types much more viable. Think about Pokémon like Aegislash and Toxapex, they became staples in the meta partly because of fairy types. Yeah, but let's not forget fairy types also got some of the most annoying moves in the game. Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Play Rough. And don't even get me started on aromatherapy and Misty Terrain. I mean, they had to balance out how busted dragon types were before. I am never forgiving Game Freak for this. Alright, fine. I'll admit fairy types have a cool history. But I still don't like them. That's fair. But you got to admit, learning about their mythological roots is pretty awesome. And despite your personal vendetta, fairy types brought a much-needed balance to Pokémon battles. Balance? More like heartbreak. But hey, I wanna hear from you guys, do you love fairy types, or do you stand with me and my dragons? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Pokémon deep dives. Outro music plays, fade to black.